Hello, Tribe of Excellence Facebook community, and for YouTube and anyone else who is viewing this, welcome. Here we are. This is Dawn Reby, CEO of Excellence in Analytics. This is a place where we help service-based individuals, service-based professionals really reclaim their time, love what they do, and align with their work-life harmony. So welcome. Here we are. Today we're talking about relationship mapping. So we're about to get into building quality relationships. So this is a new time for us, for today, because later on today we have another big national presentation going on. So here we are today. Let me know that you are here. Who is popping on here? Let's see. I see a couple of you popping on here. I was just sitting outside. It's so gorgeous out there. Oh my gosh. It's like, let's see, 76 degrees out. It's beautiful. It's amazing. So go ahead in the chat. Let me know that you all are here. I see you popping on. I can't see any comments yet. So let me know what part of the country you are chiming in from on this 12 noon Eastern session here, where we are going to dive into relationship mapping in a way that we've never done before, right? In a way that we've never done before. So we're gonna talk a little bit about how to build quality relationships, why it's important to build quality relationships, and what many of us have done as a result of COVID, but maybe even not as a result of COVID, maybe just as a result of us in our lives, right? So maybe the comments aren't quite working today, because I know, I have a feeling things are happening. I just don't see them. And so, one of the things that I really think about when I think about relationships, when someone says to you, how are you? And you say, I'm fine, or good, right? Or busy, right? That terrible word, busy. How are you really, right? This is kind of like this blank stare, like I'm good, I'm fine. Or what do you feel when someone says that to you? I'm good, I'm fine, I'm busy, I'm okay, right? And there's no real connection there. You're almost numb to the response. And sometimes you don't even listen to the response, right? Sometimes you don't even listen to the response because you didn't really want to ask the question, how are you? You just kind of did automatically, right? And so whether you're listening here live or on the replay, let me know, put a little heart in the comments so that I know that if you're listening here live or in the replay. And if that has happened to you, right? If that has happened to you, that you are saying hi, bye to people, how are you? And you really don't care about what the answer is. Or maybe you're terrible inside and you're saying, I'm fine, right? And you're really not. And so we have this lack of connection that's going on. And so, what happens? We are filled, our space is filled with all these people, right? So we might have our coworkers, our husbands, our wives, our family members. We might have friends, and we're just not connected. There's a gap between us and them in this piece that connects us together, right? And so, we say, well, my life is not that bad, or, I just, I feel guilty for wanting more, right? Wanting more. And so we're here to debunk connections, right? To really help us build quality connections. So here's the thing. I've seen so many people, surround themselves. They're at work and they have like 100 people around them, right? But they still feel so alone, right? And is that you? Are you surrounded with people at work and at home and friends, but you still feel so alone? Right? So you just have, and so the reason is because there hasn't been that connection with people, and it takes trust, it takes energy, and we're going to show you exactly how to get there. Okay. So what we're talking about today is really bridging that gap between being alone and feeling incredibly alone, right? Really bridging that gap between, what does it take to build a relationship with someone, and why is it so important? So let's talk about these relationships. What exactly are they, right? I think about how nourishing relationships can be, right? How nourishing connections can be with intimate partners, with cousins, aunts, uncles, coworkers, friends, right? Bosses, what these relationships and what these connections with clients, how nourishing it can be to really connect on that deeper level with like-minded community members, like folks that we have here. And it can really elicit these feelings of passion and compassion, right? These things that we can't experience really by ourselves, right? That we can't really experience by ourselves. And, you know, I think about a couple months ago, we talked about blue zones, right? Who here remembers the blue zones, where we talked about these longevity studies that took a look at some of the healthiest, happiest people in the world, right? The blue zones, that the healthiest, happiest people in the world. And what did they discover was one of the key things that made them happy and live long, beautiful lives? It was connection and purpose. Those two things, connection and purpose. So all summer long, and yes, it is May, but let's face it, June's right around the corner, right? And the summer's here. So all summer long, we're going to be talking about, you know, these buckets of living a fulfilled life and connection. We're going to start with connection because that's one that we can do today, that we can do right here and right now. All right. Oh, there we go. I see some comments now. Hello, Renee. All right. I see Caroline is here. I don't know what just happened. Everyone's there. Now, Steve. Yes. You're in. Hi. Yes. Building quality relationships. And so we were really born to be these social beasts, right? We were born to go in and be with crew, right? Our babies were born to be with the parents. They weren't born to like go off and live on their own. We are, you know, really born to be these social beasts. We are born to connect with other people. It is this innate thing that happens inside that really builds us up as the humans that we want to be. Yeah, Caroline's talking about that blue zone. That was phenomenal, right? But sometimes we end up isolating. And going so deep into our work for a couple different reasons. One, because it might be easier to do work than to connect with someone who you haven't connected with in a long time. Right? So, you know, this is work for you might be a place where you succeed. And so you are working. And all of a sudden these connections that could be blossoming are really just non-existent in your world. So what happens? You say to yourself, gosh darn it, I don't have anyone to call on Friday. Or, you know, I feel so lonely. You might be married and feeling this way. You might be in a relationship. You might have all the friends in the world, but you might still be feeling lonely because you lack the connection piece, right? You lack that connection piece, and that's really, really critical. And that's what we're talking about here. And so a lot of folks I find end up, you know, diving into work because they don't want to be confronted with the lack of connections that they have. They don't know how to connect. And so we're going to debunk a lot of that today. And we're going to give you tools and action steps that you can walk away with to really connect. Okay. I think about jail, right? I think about our jails, and, you know, one of the ways that we punish people in the prisons is to keep them in isolation. And why is that? It's because it's supposed to drive them crazy, right? It's supposed to be the worst kind of punishment. And it very well can be, but we outside of jail are doing this to ourselves. We are self-isolating. And so, you know, COVID made it a lot easier to isolate. In fact, many of us, including myself, we enjoyed isolating. We enjoyed not going to every single wedding and birthday party and event, and we got to have a little bit more quiet time, right? And one of the things that we realized in that time during COVID is really the important people and things in our lives. But what we also found is that so many, let's see, I have a couple questions here. So what we're finding is that so many find it pleasurable to detach, and so did I, right? So Caroline says, would you say that this is part of a scarcity mindset to not create those relationships, the fear of being rejected? What a great point. So exactly. So it's easier for you to dive into work or to isolate yourself or to plug yourself into the tube than it is for you to build a relationship, because maybe you feel guilty that the relationship hasn't been built. Maybe you don't know how to build relationships. Maybe you're just so used to being transactional that you don't know how to build relationships. And we're going to show you some tips on how to do that. That fear of being rejected. Yeah, like, you know, what if I try to connect with someone and they don't want to connect back with me? Humans want to connect, right? People want to feel cared about, right? We want that sense of belonging. We want that opportunity to be cared about, to be loved, to love somebody else, to be considered of value, right? I think that's one of them. Maybe we could plan a tribe trip. Yes, to see the blue zones. Steve says in Italy. Yes, yes, yes. Shanghai. I mean, I think that was one of them. Shanghai, maybe, as well. So there's these blue zones that really talk about these, longevity, key functions. And actually, there's tons of government funding in the United States right now. Not tons, but some, where they're taking these blue zone concepts of connection, of quality food, of purpose, and building it into different parts of the United States, which is pretty wild. So we need to find our people, right? We need to be mentally stimulated. We need to find our people to feel that connection. We need to, have these sources of energy, of acceptance, of forgiveness. We need these people in our lives to connect with. And our lives are so much better when we do. All right, they're so much better when we do. So we're going to talk about a couple of ways that you can connect. And if you're saying to yourself, I like being alone, so do I. I actually love being alone. Many of you might be surprised, but I'm a huge introvert. So I love being on stage presenting. That is my mammo jammo, right? Like, I love that. I love inspiring. I love uplifting. I love this. I love that energy. I love all of that, right? But I would much prefer, not prefer over that, but during my personal time, I would much prefer a small intimate dinner with maybe 6 of my closest friends where we have wine and music playing and we can just connect and see each other than being at a big bar with hundreds of people and noise and all this, right? And so it's okay to want your alone time. It's okay to want your quiet time, right? And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is the role that connection plays in your happiness and really in your work-life integration, right? In your work-life integration. So go ahead in the chat. Let me know whether you're listening here live or to the replay. Let me know what kind of connections do you have right now? Do you have distant connections? Do you have connections that, people in your life that you haven't talked to in a year because of COVID, right? So Renee says, yes, me too. An introvert who walks as an extrovert when needed. Exactly. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's great. So how do we cultivate these connections? These connections are really what make us human, right? They make us feel fulfilled. They make us feel of value. I talk to so many, folks in the service-based industry who don't feel valued, right? Who are constantly trying to prove their value. And if instead of proving our value, we took a step back, right? We took a step back and we said, let's build these connections, then we're going to feel each other's value that way. All right, so let's do this. How do we cultivate connections? I have a couple of notes here for you that I would love to share with you about how to cultivate these connections. How to, bring people into your life who are quality, who can elevate you, right, on a conscious level, right? And maybe subconsciously too. So how do we do that? So number 1, cultivate your own feelings first. Cultivate your own feelings first. You really need to start, we all, not just you, me too. We all need to start with ourselves, right? And so, I have this section in here from this book that our private group is reading about, starting with the gifts that you bring to the table, right? Cultivate your own feelings first. Exactly, Caroline. Really, what are the gifts? What's your channel of pure consciousness? Like, what's your gift to the world that you offer? Who are you as a human, right? What are the gifts to this world that you are offering? It could be work-based. It could be, inspirational. It could be whatever you want it to be, but know your gifts first. Know your contribution first. Feel the way that you want to feel first. Studying some Joe Dispenza work right now and thinking about, this idea of cultivating in your mind, right, what you want to be present for you and really creating this present future so that you're thinking about what you want right now and you're thinking about the emotion and the feeling that it feels like for you to actually have that thing right now, right? So if we were to do that with connection, we would say, what would it feel like to be connected to Caroline, to Steve, to Renee? What would it feel like to be connected, to be sitting across the table and really getting to know them to get better as human beings, finding their stories? Like, how would that feel for us right now? So the first step is to start with you. Start with what gifts you have to offer and really cultivate that feeling of connection with other people, okay? And so really thinking about your full potential, what you bring to the table, and how your full potential will make you feel in terms of contribution. So that's number one. Number two, discover your social set point. What is your social set point? So a couple of minutes ago, I talked about, for me, being on stage, right? So I'm going to Florida. I'm going to be the keynote speaker down there. I can't wait. That is my jam. I love being on stage, right? And lifting people up. Well, what's my other point of connection? I love doing things, right? I loved going on a yoga retreat and getting outside with a bunch of women and men who, were really looking for that deeper sense of themselves. And we went on a retreat together. That was incredible, right? For me, that small, intimate 7 people thing was amazing. What's your social set point? What brings you, what types of connection bring you joy, right? Do you love being at a concert, right? And just connecting with people with the music? Like, what's your connection of joy? Is it a room full of laughing people, right? Is it large groups? Is it small groups? Number 2 is really finding your social set point, finding that connection. Like, because let's see this. If you are a person who likes things a little bit more quiet and you go to this social setting that's loud and music is blaring, that's not going to make you feel very comfortable. That's not going to give you the opportunity emotionally to connect deeply with other people. And on the other end of that, if you love having music playing and you just love having drinks and being just relaxed, and then you're sitting in a book club, like, that might not be the right social connection for you. And so the second step here is really to identify your social set point, right? How you like to connect with people. And don't force it. There are people out there that are just like you, who want to connect on a deeper level exactly the same way that you do. And so you might not know like all the ways, right, to connect, and that's okay, right? But really just think about what brings you joy. Like, what is the thing that brings you joy in terms of connection? So that's the second key thing. And the reason why that's so important is because, you are not going to connect with people in a meaningful way in a platform that doesn't work for you. Like, I remember going to like BNI's, the business meetings where your job is to like hand off your cards and connect with people. And it was really hard for me to just say, hi, my name is Dawn, here you go. Hi, here you go, right? And instead, I ended up talking to 2 or 3 people only for the whole time because I wanted to get to know them a little bit better and really nourish that relationship. Some people don't operate like that, right? Some people operate a different way where they really enjoy spreading their wings and talking to multiple people. So you really want to find what serves you. Dave is right. As the saying goes, birds with the same feathers flock together. And it's okay, whatever your feathers are. So it's okay what your feathers are. So if you think that this is a valuable conversation to have, we have a couple more points here. If you think that this is a valuable conversation to have, then go ahead and invite someone else to listen to this live or the replay, right? This idea around connections. Because let's face it, if you live a transactional life, if you are talking to your staff in a transactional way on a regular basis, if you were talking to your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your children or your friends on transactional basis, like, all right, it's been a while, I guess we got to get together for girls' night, and you get out and you're so overwhelmed because their version of girls' night is different than yours, right? And you're not really calm or connected. Like, this is the kind of stuff that makes life not by design. So we want to build our lives by design, right? Build our lives by design. So connections help you solve problems in real time. Now let's think about this for a second. How many of you text, right? If you text right now, I want you to put a little T in the chat. If you're a texter and you text at least 5 times a day, right? Go ahead. You know it's you. Put a little T in the chat right now, whether you're listening to the replay or you're here live. You can put a T in there because I know Caroline. I don't know about Renee. Maybe Renee. There's Caroline. Yeah. Who else is a texter, right? So, you can text 20 people and it literally is like, and you're like, I could literally copy and paste and send it to 10 different people. And that's how work gets done, right? And that's how things get done. And so that works for certain things. But if you're looking for connection, instead of texting or emailing, right? Connecting with someone over a cup of coffee yields greater results, right? So if you're working on a big partnership with someone and your entire transaction is through email, they don't get a sense of who you are. Things can be interpreted differently, right, than maybe you intended. But when you sit across the table and you look into their eyes, right, you get a sense of who they are. That builds trust, that builds connection, that builds business, that builds partnerships, that builds relationships, that builds, staff-employee relationships, right? When you know them as a person, when you can go with the flow, all right? So the key for number 2 is really building the right kind of relationships, right? In the right way for you, in a way that works for you, and not forcing some other way that you think you have to do because everybody else is really good at X, Y, and Z. All right. So whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, an ambivert, whatever you are, a little combination of both of those, it's okay. Know what you are, own what you are, and be intentional about what you deliver to the world. So starting with you, identifying your key areas, your key social set points is really key. Hey, Michelle, good to see you here. Okay. And in the end, whether you are introvert, extrovert, or ambivert, right? We were meant to connect. We were meant to belong. People want to feel like they belong. They belong to a great career culture. They belong to a great network of people. Lewis Howes had that meditation guy on. I forget his name. He's phenomenal. And he talks about every Tuesday he goes out with the guys, right? And whether it's golfing or tennis or whatever they do, right? And every Tuesday it's the same core group of people. And that's incredible, right? Like, you connect, you bond over time. This is happening. I think about, our wellness groups, right? Caroline says, I think since COVID, people are craving these types of connections. Reach out and set up a virtual or in-person coffee hangs. Yes, exactly. Great way to get to know people. And I think about our private group, right? Our private group, we have Wellness Wednesdays. We meet every Wednesday and we, introduce different wellness topics. And I had a great client call this morning where she said that, she didn't show up to a bunch of them in the beginning because she didn't feel like she belonged, right? And now she shows up to every single one of them because it's accountability, there's fresh ideas, she feels like she belongs to something bigger than herself. It's amazing. It's amazing, right? And so finding a core group of people where you can, build that relationship over time is absolutely key. Renee says, I just found this place where you go and break things. Oh, I love it. I love it. That would be so fun. I just found a place where you throw axes, which is pretty cool. So I want to try that too. But breaking things sounds really cool too. That is amazing. So number three, look up. Stop being a digital junkie. Stop being a digital junkie. I mean, do you kind of scroll from, one digital dopamine hit to another digital dopamine hit, right? Where you're just like, I'm going to scroll Facebook and see what's happening there. And I'm going to like, love. I'm going to put a little emoji in there. And then I'm going to go to Instagram. I'm going to like, and I don't know, really Instagram, share, story, whatever it is, right? Then I'm going to go to LinkedIn and see what's happening over there. And you think that you're connecting, right? And you're not. You're not connecting. That's not real connecting. Good, Renee, you have that axe place too. Yeah. Yes, Michelle, we crave human interaction. And so, yeah, you can be on Facebook and, or LinkedIn, and I'm on, we have platforms that we visit on a regular basis too, but that's not true connection. That's kind of like, oh, people are distant and I'm keeping up with them kind of thing. But if you think for a minute that digital dopamine replaces the dopamine that happens when you are in front of someone and you can feel their energy, you are way off base. When you are in front of somebody, it feels different. So many folks, I know Renee's been to some of these, and Michelle and Caroline, a couple of you, we have our these pop-up sessions every once in a while. We had the leadership reset and women in leadership. And when you walk away, you feel so refreshed. Amanda, right? When you walk away, you're like, oh my God, I feel like these women are amazing. These men and women are amazing. And I feel so connected. And that's what happens in our Wednesday groups. That's what happens in our Tuesday groups. We belong, we feel connected, we look up, right? So even if it has to happen virtually, right? We are still looking up. And so, maybe the next time you want to text somebody, right? Maybe you try this out. Maybe the next time you want to text somebody, you instead press the little record button and you send them a voice message and find a little bit closer connection, right? There's different apps too that you can do this. I don't really know them. Jen or someone, Michelle, might know different apps. Marco Polo or something like that, maybe. For me, like yesterday morning, I took a little video of myself letting a special person know that I was thinking of this special person and started that person's morning that way, right? And so even if you can't be in person, what I'm really saying here is that you can still connect more than just a little text, right? More than just a little text. So texting can work, but it is essentially transactional. Facebook can work, but it's transactional. Social media can work, but it's transactional. It's when you get with folks and get connected that things are so different. Michelle says, I was just telling one of my friends last night that there was a moment in our Wednesday group last night, and I was like, oh, sugar, this is my group. These are my peeps. Oh my gosh. I love that, Michelle. When you're just like, I can show up here, I can be vulnerable, I can feel connected, and this is way better than any Facebook group, including ours, right? Like, I love our Tribe of Excellence, but when we get on a private Zoom together, when you step it up a level and get on that private Zoom together, it's amazing, right? And like, get this, Rhea, y'all know Rhea, she's part of our crew. 2 years ago, we met. 2 years ago, we met because she joined our program. And I've never met her in person, but I feel like I know her, right? I feel like I know her because I've never met her in person. And in 2 weeks-ish, right? Where are we? Yeah, in 2 weeks, I'll be down in Florida, not only with Rhea giving her this crazy big hug, but with Andrew, who's one of our clients, with Angelica, who is one of our clients, and her mom, because her mom's amazing, right? And Christiane, and, all these other folks who are down there that you just don't get the same thing by not looking in someone's eyes, right? Looking in someone's eyes truly. And Caroline's another great example. She's been with our team for a year, and I've never met her in person. But guess what's happening tomorrow? Her and I, right? We haven't met in person because we live in different states. But she's up here for a couple of weeks, and so we're meeting at a restaurant to finally see each other in human capacity, right? And so there's this thing that happens when you look up, when you stop being a digital junkie and you actually make the time, the energy, the intention to go out, right? And to connect with people in a real, true, undisturbed kind of way. All right. So that's number three. Number four in how to build quality connections. Vanquish your vampires. Vanquish those blood-sucking hounds. You do not have to be connected with everybody. You just don't. You don't have to be connected with every person who walks through your door. You don't have to be best friends with everybody. I tell my 10-year-old daughter, there's a little girl that she's not fond of at school, and I said, you don't have to connect with everybody. Respect everybody, but you don't have to connect with them. Right? And so, but choose intentionally people that you can connect with. But if you feel like this person, every time I talk to them, I'm so drained, they literally suck the life out of me and I'm so drained, then stop trying to force the connection. I formally give you permission, if you were looking for it, to stop trying to force a connection with somebody who's draining the life out of you, right? Because you want your connections to come from a place of authenticity, embrace, kindness, like a deeper space, right? And you can't do that with someone who is just not a good fit for you, right? So if you know someone who is, draining you, you don't have to be connecting with them. Instead, you want to really look for those energy boosters, the people, and you know who I'm talking about. Like, you get in a room with them and you're like, oh my God, time just flew. Or you get in a room with them and you're just like, my energy just went up like 15 notches, right? Just by being with you. And some of it has to happen virtually. It just has to happen, right? So like when we did that training with Renee, like, I know what she did for her team. I was there with the retreats that she did for her team. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. She just rose my energy. So I knew on that training with us, she would elevate other people's energy. And she did, right? Just by being around her. You want to look for that kind of stuff. You want to look for people who are going to rise your energy and build that culture, not those vampire suckers. So being able to set your boundaries and eliminate the vampire suckers from your life and being okay with it. That'll give you the space, the mentality, the empathy, the sympathy, the everypathy, and that'll give you what you need to really create those deep connections with the right people, And then the last one here from, and again, we're reading from this wonderful book, what's the name of it? Here it is. How to Live a Good Life by Jonathan Fields. It's just a phenomenal book. Our team is working through it together this summer. It's a phenomenal, soft, gentle book that really talks about filling your buckets, right? And so I'm going to give you the last little tip in here. But before I do that, if you're thinking about some of these, if you're thinking about like this first one, you're like, oh, how do I cultivate these relationships? You said number one, I start with me, right? I got to know my value. I got to start with the feeling inside of me. If you're struggling with that, if that's a big deal for you right now and you're like, Dawn, I need a jump start. I need a complete reset. I don't know how to do what you're saying. I don't understand it. It doesn't compute in my brain how to do this because I've never done this before. I've always been so work focused. I've always been so, help other people, but not really connect with them. We have something real special going on this summer. How many people have seen it? How many people have seen the very first time that we have ever done anything like this? It's called our Summer Reset, where your commitment, in our other programs, your commitment is 12 months, right? So you can build with your group and really have systemic and long-term impact. But for those of you who, you're kind of like, all right, I don't know if I'm ready for 12 months, but I am ready for a reset. I'm ready for a jump start. And I'm ready for, someone to sit with me and coach me through how to get from point A to point B. And maybe you don't even know what point B is. You need someone to help you clarify your wellness goals, your health and wellness goals. So we have our summer reset going on right now. We only have 5 slots. That's it. You get coached one-on-one twice a month for the entire summer, right? So we formulate a plan just for you around your wellness for the entire summer so that come September, you're going to take a look back and say, shizzle, I did that. I did all that, right? I did that. So we have that going on. If Caroline or Michelle, if you want to plug in to the chat, the link to that. Now, it's not the full program, so you won't have access to our groups. You won't have access to the modules and the materials, but you will have access to a coach one-on-one for the entire summer. And you'll also, we threw in some fun stuff there. We have special wellness events every month, and you'll have access to all 3 of them throughout the summer. So the last Wednesday of every month, you get a little package in the mail and you celebrate with us. You show up and you celebrate with us as a special little way for you to be well with us. So, it's really phenomenal. It's a phenomenal way for you to kind of taste out some of the programming and for you to just jump start. 3 months, so much can be done in June, July, and August, right? Think about the last 3 months, right? March, April, and May. Where were you in March? Are you exactly where you were then? Are you finally ready to just be like, give it to me, make it happen, right? It really truly is, Caroline, a once in a lifetime time to reset. And the program, I don't have the exact price with me right now, but it's somewhere around $300 a month, which is really quite reasonable, quite reasonable. So a $900 investment for the entire summer for you to reset the whole thing with one-on-one coaching. Our other clients pay, between $475 and $725 a month. So this is like an unbelievable way to get a taste of all of this with, with the same amount of impact and energy and power and success. So that can be you. That can be you. Okay. So with that said, number 5, the last tip here to build those connections, right? Well, actually, some of you are like, what the heck is the program? Who's it programmed for? Got it. Okay. So if you are a service-based individual, you work in public sector, fire, police, nurse, doctor in emergency rooms, EMS, any kind of response person, any kind of service-based individual, you provide services to other people, right? And you're really trying to figure out, what's my next move? How can I find wellness at home, right? I'm really not well. I'm really stressed out. I'm really, not feeling good about myself. I haven't found the work-life harmony that I really wanted. You can spend the summer building that work-life harmony, and in September be a completely different human. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. So you can find wellness. Okay. Yes. Number 5. Michelle is ready for number 5. Okay. Number 5. So now you've set up this coffee date, right? You've set up this tea date or walking date or whatever it might be, right? And now it's all about the conversation, right? So uncage your conversation. Uncage your conversation. So there's really an art and a craft to having quality conversations with people. And so are you the kind of person where conversation flows very easily for you? Could you sit there and just talk with someone, right? Or do you have a hard time with this? And you're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to this person, right? It doesn't have to be a lover. It could be a coworker, right? And you still don't know what to say, right? Yes, uncage your conversation. Exactly. And so conversations, physical conversations are the gateway, the key, the gateway to connections, right? Having that conversation with someone, that's the gateway to connection. So you first got to get real solid with yourself. You got to create that intention. You got to reach out. You got to make the connections. Get your head out of the social media, the digital well, you know what I mean, electronics. And then it comes convo time and you're like, well, what the heck I said? I've done all that. Now what do I actually say? And how do I work through this? So I'm going to give you a step-by-step flow of how to have a conversation. And this might sound silly, but quite honestly, I remember a time where my tongue would get tied when I talked to people. That's a lot of T's. My tongue would get tied when I talk to people, right? I remember a time, and you tell me if this is you, where sometimes, you're like, what do I say? Like maybe it's this amazing person that you've been admiring for so long and you're like, no, I don't know what to say, right? Or maybe it's someone you have emotion for and you just don't want to say the wrong thing. Or maybe it's your boss and you're like, what kind of conversation can I have with my boss or my employee? Like you don't want to step over the boundary. And so you get caught. So is that you? Are you struggling at all with creating quality conversations, right? In the chat, let me know. Let me know. Or are you kind of like, hey, how you doing? All right, goodbye. Or are you really able to dig deeper and develop the connection that's going to lead to, joy? That's going to lead to empathy. That's going to lead to fulfillment, right? Are you really good at that? So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't see anyone responding here. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. So is that you? So are you amazing at connections and conversations? Or are you like, nope, need a little work on this. Can you please tell me what to do? Are you somewhere in between? And that's okay too. So the first thing when you're uncaging your conversation, the first thing you do is set the intention to give. So set the intention to give. If you walk into a conversation with your supervisor or with someone you admire or with your employees, right? Or with your husband or with your wife, if you walk into the conversation with intention to give, it sets you up for success. Okay? So, when I think about if I'm walking into a conversation and I'm like, okay, how can I impress them? Like, that's not how the conversation is going to really, be well, right? So Caroline says, I love making quality connections with people. I feel like I'm pretty good at it, but COVID has set me back a bit. Anyone else? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And then sometimes you're just conversationed out, right? I've been to conventions with, hundreds of people, and I'm like, oh my God, who else can I possibly talk to, right? You just get so overwhelmed, right? So the number one thing you do when you're uncaging your convo is you set the intention to give, right? And when you come from that mindset of giving and gratitude and really not taking, right? When you come with that intention to give, you actually will get so much out of it too, right? So that's number one, setting the intention to give. Number two, let's see. Michelle says, I'm all about some good conversation, but I know some of my friends have struggled with this in the past. Yeah, they would love this. Share it with them, Michelle. Share it with them. So, conversations can be hard sometimes because you're like, what do you say? I like your lipstick. Like, what do you say? Right? So the first thing is to set your intention, take a deep breath, set your intention. I'm about to give. I'm about to give my attention, my energy, my eyes, my stare, not in a creepy way, right? But you're about to give to this conversation. Number two, undivided attention. Stop taking phone calls. I mean, if you're like, oh, just give me a second, and you're texting, no es bueno. No. Give your undivided attention. In some ways, if you need, like, let's say you're having dinner with someone, one of the things I say to them, I'm like, look, you're super important to me. I have, my little one is at home with a babysitter, so I'm going to leave my phone, but I'm going to leave it upside down. If in the instance that they connect, I'm not going to answer anyone else's phone call, but that's the only reason why I have my phone on the table, or I might have my watch on that if I look at it, I might say the only reason why I'm going to look at my watch is to see if it's my babysitter, or whatever, right? So making it very clear to them that they are priority, making it very clear to people that you are, really truly listening to them, and then really truly do that. Undivided attention. Like, don't look around. All around. You want to give someone your undivided attention. They are your priority in that moment. It can be quite powerful. So setting the intention to give, giving that undivided attention, and be interested. Simply be interested. Be curious, right? So if they're like, oh, I went to Florida, oh, well, great. What did you enjoy down in Florida? Right? Or, I lead a team of analysts. How is that for you? What's your favorite thing about leading a team of analysts? Make it open-ended, right? Versus this distant connection piece. This like, oh, that's good, right? That's good. And then you try to think of the next thing to talk about. So, no problem, Joe. We're glad that you are checking in here. We're talking about uncaging your conversation, how to build connections versus transactions with people in your life. So, so be interested, be truly interested in what they have to say. Be truly interested in what people have to say. Lead with exciting questions, right? Lead with questions. Like, if you lead with a question, and for some of you, this might be a challenge. You might have to write down some questions, right? And so you can lead with questions that are interesting. So, I have a couple here. What have you read, or what have you done lately that's been exciting for you? People love talking about what's exciting for them, right? And so what have you done lately? Or what, if they're a reader, what book have you read that's been really exciting for you? What did you learn? What's, like, when you're like, what's up? What's going on? You're like, nothing's up. Nothing's going on, right? But when you're specific, do you plan any travel this summer? What does that look like for you? What's the best place you've traveled to, right? What's the last place you've traveled to? So when you start the conversation with some of these questions that really, if you're in a business environment, you're getting connected on something that's not work related, right? If you notice that there's a picture of a dog at their desk, then you might say, and you think this is true, you might say, like, that dog is super cute. Like, what's his name? Tell me about him. What's your favorite thing? Is he the kind of dog that stands by the door and waits for you? Like, ask interesting questions, right? Ask interesting questions. And that takes practice. And you might, need to write a few down. And if this is an area of interest for you where you're just like, I kind of need help in this area. Again, we do all of this in the summer reset, right? Or we can, because it's customized to you, right? So we can do all that. So ask good questions, listen, and pause. Pause. Be fully present in the moment. Don't be thinking about, what am I going to say next? Just pause. Just pause in that moment. Allow them to share. Okay. So, the last piece of it, of thought here in terms of conversation. So, we talked about being present with the intention to give, right? And coming with, open-ended questions and really just going with the flow of the conversation and not being so nervous. And the last one is have some stories to tell. Have some stories to tell. You have been through so much in life. You, I'm sure, have wonderful stories to tell. If you can't think of any, journal at night until you think of at least one or two that are really interesting to share, right? Be a storyteller. Storytellers, there's actually a great book around being a storyteller. I think it's actually called Storytelling or something like that. It's like white with like a red circle on it. So, which doesn't help you very much unless you Googled it. But, be a storyteller, think about your experiences and think about how you can share and give to the conversation in your storytelling. So, today is really about the difference between, like connecting and not connecting. The difference between being around a bunch of people and feeling so alone to really truly feeling connected to people. When you connect with people on a level that is extraordinary or milestone, right? Or small, right? Then the transactional stuff doesn't seem so transactional. The work stuff doesn't seem so work stuff. It seems like you're part of this bigger thing, right? And quite honestly, your life will get a lot better. Your life will get a lot better, right? When you find every person that you come in contact with has a story to tell. Find out something special about them. I remember I was living in this condo, this townhouse, and my neighbor, he was like this little old man, and he came over, knocked on my door, and he shuffled over, and he brought a little book. And it was this woman, an Asian woman, on the book cover /man, right? And he handed me this book, and he said, "This is my wife." Right? She had to be a man in order, like pretend to be a man in order to go into the military, right? And serve our country. And she wrote about it in this book. And so he hands me over this book, and how proud he was to share his story, right? How proud he was to share his story. And so I encourage you, my hope, my intention, and my thought for you and for myself is walking away from today, whether you're listening to the live or to the replay, walking away from today with this sense that I want to connect. I want to connect. I want to enjoy life. I want to enjoy people. It's not all about work. It's not all about responsibilities. So much fulfillment and joy comes from true connections. So with that said, I truly hope that you find a way to connect with somebody really special today in a really special way, right? And avoid the texting just for today, one day. Avoid the texting and the Facebook and all of that, and find ways to be really meaningful in your connection. We have one of our clients, Andrew, connects with people through letters. Like he, writes these personal notes to them, which is a phenomenal way to connect, right? So really thinking about, what kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live a lonely life? Do you want to live a disconnected life? Do you want to live a life that is filled with joy, blue zone, right? Do you want to live a blue zone kind of life? For those of you who are just popping on, you're like, what the heck is Blue Zone? Go back, check it out. We have a whole video separate from this on Blue Zones, which is the longevity tools, right? How these countries have crazy, amazing, happy lives and extended beyond anyone in the United States of America, and how we're now trying to build that over here. And it involved connection and purpose. Connection and purpose. So, this has been a great session here. Thank you for joining me here. And hopefully, even though we're virtually right now, I can't wait to see your faces someday. I hope you choose to connect with me on a personal level, because that would just melt my heart if that happened. All right. I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you at some time. Enjoy your day and go get connected. You are the CEO of your life, so take charge of it and do your thing. I'm Dawn Reeby. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye now.